have no sound in them, but once we raise these, they will have sound. As soon as they have some area, a little raise, they will make some sound. Not the sounds we want, but that's pretty much how the drum works. You have segmented areas on the total surface. Those areas are different sizes. You see big, small. Bigger notes are lower, smaller ones are higher. So when I got to the prison, I was stripped down to a number. That's what you become, a number. You answer to the number, you operate as that number. And I operated as that number for a while. You were there to suffer, not to just, do time. They try to make it hard on you. And it was very strict. You had very little movement. It's very dangerous, very dark, very unclean, very noisy, completely metal, just rows of cells stacked on top of each other, long rows, just horrible, dark place. And I can remember my first day there, my heart was just about as low as it could be, because they just bring you right in, they put you in a holding cell. And then a few people that I knew from my community who were doing time there, they would come and holler at you, but they couldn't get close to you, but they could holler back and forth at you, But mentally, I was strong though, and like I say, my escape plan was to outsmart the system, to not get out of there, but through my intelligence and legally, and be out of that place, because that's the only thing I could accept at that point. I couldn't accept just being there and wasting away. I don't know how this happened. It must have been good luck or whatever. I got a job, a trustee job, at the warden's apartment, which was above the prison. So you had to go out of this round cage door, and then you would be on the outside of the prison, but you wouldn't be out of the prison. You would be out of the confined part. And then I would go around the corner and up to the apartment and work for the warden. What we're going to do next is burn the drums. There's two burns that we do. This first burn is designed to take away the hardness that has been set up in the drum in its construction. And then we will smooth the drum down completely flat again. And then we will raise it for a final burn, which we call a temper. So this is the first burn, and it will be clear to see its effect, the flame's effect. And I worked for him and his wife. It's just like his home was above the prison. So that got me a chance to be looked at by someone and said, here's a person that's worthy of saving. Here's a person that's a good person, which also gave me status as an inmate, because I had control of the books. I would write legal papers for people. A lot of my buddies thought I knew everything. If they answered me a question, I could answer. We would watch Jeopardy or something on TV, and how can you know that stuff, So they would call me Doc, so as Doc. So I had the library as a status thing for myself. And then people like that would recommend to people in the law enforcement area that Michael's clean, he works for me, he's got no blemishes on his record. He's a person that deserves you to look at. If there's a sentence reduction that comes up, look at him as one of the people. So that sentence reduction was something that I wrote as a legal paper for commutation of sentence, to reduce it from 30 to 15, to cut it in half. Now we will flatten all of these notes and try to level the surface so that these marks made by the punch are no longer impressions in the metal, but they are smoothed out to the level of the surrounding surface. Because of its broad face, you can do an easy job of flattening the notes. It's probably about 3 months wait. And the pardons were always given on Christmas. This was part of a trend that they had that the governor would issue pardons at Christmas, and there was another day that they would issue these commutations or reducing of sentences. But when I got that letter, I was so joyful. I just couldn't believe it, that I had achieved what I said I was going to do, get myself out of this predicament. And it just verified for me how much energy I had to do this. So I will raise the notes now. When my schooling started, it was one of the jets for me, because then I was able to be seen again by people who could see if a person had more than just the average person in the population. That if I could get out of this environment, here's a person that might be one of those redeemed lives. This is with the surface raised again, and you can actually see the individual notes that will be tuned. So we'll take this to the fire, temper it with a heat flame again. I remember the day I left. It was on my birthday. I was 23 years old. They gave me a trench coat, a used trench coat, and I had like a small bag. They took me to the Trailways or the Greyhound station and sent me to DC. I had the part-time job at the clothing store and the job at Xerox Corporation. And when Xerox fell apart, the other job I quit too and made plans to come to California to do more study. I bought some chisels at one point. I bought 2 chisels, a gouge and a smaller gouge. And I bought a piece of wood, a bedpost. It was about 6 feet tall. And I said, well, I'm going to teach myself to carve wood. And I did. And I can remember just getting that bedpost and those 2 chisels and just being filled up with a desire to not stop until it was done. And I can remember starting at the top and just the first head, the next, and I can remember getting down to the snake at the bottom. And just I had this desire not to stop until it was done. And I don't even still to this day know how I did it. I just really don't. I just started. It's like start and you finish. I was living with my very good friend who's an African, who's an artist, and we were just like 2 bachelors in this house and had all day long just to kind of do art, you know. And I loved it so much to have that feeling of being unencumbered, that you can just wake up and do art. I'm gonna get a reference to G with my keyboard. So internalizing those pitches help you to become a better tuner. And my buddy and I, we were promoting concerts and art exhibits, and so it was just this house that had a lot of activity in. But once that fell through, once the money ran out, we had nowhere to go because we were looking for another place to live. So they allowed me to, my buddy and his new friend allowed me to come and stay in this chicken shack on the back of the house that had been converted to a little place. It had a wood stove in it and a bed, no running water. And I can remember also, I was trying to tune at nighttime some steel drums, and some neighbor from some houses away was really yelled a bunch of profanity at me about stopping. I couldn't understand that it was that loud, but it was really annoying, I'm sure. She kicked me out of the chicken shack, and that was like one of the low points of my life, getting kicked out of a chicken shack.